Before he was called the Black Swordsman, before Griffith, before the brand, there was a hanging tree, a battlefield, a newborn child pulled crying from beneath the body of his own mother. This is the part of the story no one sings about, not the legend, but the beginning. Raised by mercenaries who never wanted him, taught to fight before he was taught to read, loved when he was loved at all, the only way the people around him knew how. This is where Guts begins. A dead tree stands against a pale sky, its bare branches twisted like something reaching rather than growing. From those branches hang shapes wrapped in tattered cloth, the dead strung up and left to the crows. Closer now, the shapes resolve into what they are. Bodies stripped of dignity, rope-thin and swaying, faces gone to bone where the flesh has given out. Crows perch among them like this is simply where crows live. Hoofbeats sound through the wet field below. A column of armored riders makes its way past the tree, unhurried until one of them calls out, drawing the other's attention downward. Beneath the hanging dead, small and impossibly out of place, something moves in the mud. The full scope of the tree comes into view now. More bodies than the first glance let on. Some left hanging long enough that only bone remains beneath the tattered cloth. Passing beneath it, the riders barely lift their eyes. Whatever brought these people to this end, it isn't the first time this road has seen it, and it won't be enough to slow the column down. One of the mounted mercenaries takes in the sight with a grimace, unmoved by little in his life, but clearly moved by this. Behind him, prisoners crowded into a wooden cage catch sight of something through the slats and go still. Further down the column, a young woman breaks away on foot, moving toward the tree with a purpose none of the others share. Someone calls after her, "Shisu, wait," but she doesn't slow. She's found it before anyone else thought to look, the baby still breathing, and she gathers it up against her chest without a moment's hesitation. Watching from horseback, a few of the men trade a look. She lost her own child only 3 days past. One murmurs, "She hasn't been right since." "How should I know?" Another snaps back before turning the question toward the scarred mercenary at the head of the column. "That would have been your kid too, wouldn't it? Gambino." "Hey, Shisu," Gambino calls out from his horse, and beside him another rider tries to hush the baby's crying without much success. Gambino swings down and closes the distance fast. Snap out of it, he snarls, "That kid's dead already," and he doesn't ask before he takes it from her. The baby is wrenched free of her arms and sent tumbling, small limbs thrown wide against the empty air. Shisu's scream tears out of her before the child even lands, her whole body lunging after it too late. The impact is what does it. The baby's face screws up and a cry finally breaks loose, thin and furious and very much alive. It keeps crying, fists working uselessly at the air, refusing now to be quiet. Around them, the column presses on regardless, dust kicked up by hooves and boots, indifferent to the small drama playing out in the mud. "That kid's alive," someone shouts from among the riders, and the word passes back through the column in disbelief. Beneath the dead weight of the woman who bore it, cradled in nothing but blood and the mess of its own birth, the baby had already made its first sound in the world. Gambino and Shisu face each other now, neither willing to give ground, the moment stretched taut between them. The baby is passed hand to hand, still slick and wet, water sounding faintly with each movement. Shisu pulls it back into her arms and holds on, her whole body curved protectively around it. Gambino looks away, arms folded, saying nothing. Someone else tries again, Shisu gently this time, testing whether she'll be reasoned with. A shout goes up further down the line and the wagon rattles forward, regardless of what's being decided. She kneels beside the wagon wheel with the baby wrapped and held close, having made her decision whether or not anyone else agrees with it. Somewhere in the column, armor clanks and a face sets hard, unreadable. Gambino rides in silence, his expression giving away nothing of what he's decided. "You gonna allow that, Gambino?" one of the men asks, nodding toward Shisu and the child. "Hell if I care," he answers, "she can do what she wants." Behind him the others aren't so sure, trading uneasy glances they don't quite voice aloud. Picking up a kid at a place like this, one finally says, "It's a bad omen, isn't it?" Gambino only laughs at that, low and dismissive. "What?" he says, "You guys scared?" "You've got to be kidding," one of the men mutters, still watching Shisu cradle the child against her chest. "Why, no. Another answers, quieter, like he's already decided not to argue. Gambino exhales through his teeth, more exasperated than anything else. Sheesh. Small and impossibly fragile, the baby's hand curls against Shisu's arm. Come on, someone calls from further up the line. Let's get out of here and stop jabbering about this crap, and the column presses forward, indifferent now to what's already been decided. Gambino's face gives nothing away as he watches them go behind them. The tree recedes into the dark, its burden of the dead left hanging where it was found. A bad omen, isn't it? Unanswered, as the wagon carries them all away from it. 3 years pass in the space of a breath. Somewhere in the dark, eyes watch, unseen. Shisu lies wrapped and shivering, barely conscious, while someone works frantically over her. Hold on, Shisu. Guts, get out of here. A voice cries out, sharp with fear rather than cruelty. She's got the plague. Guts stands his ground anyway, small and rigid. If you get infected, someone warns him it'll be the end of you too. A hand lifts trembling and reaches toward him. Guts, she manages his name, the last steady thing she has left to hold on to. Where's Gambino, someone asks. He won't come, comes the flat answer. He's in the middle of a siege. The women gather around her with the practical cruelty of people used to death. Stuff something between her teeth, one says. Shameful, another mutters. You'd think a man would be with his woman in her dying moments. Hey, what you doing? Someone snaps as Guts pushes closer to the only mother he's ever known. Frightened as he is, all he wants is to reach her, to be at her side. Shisu says his name again, quieter this time, knowing her time is near. An older woman echoes it under her own breath, watching him. Guts says nothing. He only takes her hand. His jaw sets, some new hardness settling into features too young to carry it. A small remnant of gentler care is all that's left. Then the world moves on without waiting for grief to finish. Riders charge into a clash of spears, and somewhere amid the chaos of it, Guts is already there, small among men twice his size. 3 more years pass. An army moves toward a distant besieged castle, cannons dragged forward through the dirt. The mercenaries' fighting has already begun at the walls, spears crossing in a tangle, among the soldiers pressing forward. Guts' face is set with the same grim concentration as the men around him, older now, though still a boy among them. A spear, someone shouts, "Gimme a spear," and somewhere in the noise, another voice calls out for him by name. Guts grips the spear with both hands, hurrying to get it to Gambino. Come on, don't just sit there. He barks, no patience left for hesitation. His face is all urgency now, the kind that doesn't leave room for a child to be afraid. The clash comes anyway, spears meeting in a tangle of horses and men. A mounted opponent bears down, and Gambino drives the spear through him. Guts, right beside him, sees all of it. The dead rider falls from his horse, right onto Guts. His innards spill out over him. Gambino hits him instantly, catching him hard across the face before he can even react. No warning, no mercy in it at all. God damn it, Gambino snarls above him, already turning his attention elsewhere. Who the hell do you think feeds you? You trying to get me killed, he adds, sharper now, unwilling to slow down for him. Amid the noise of another battle, Gambino calls something down to him without slowing. If I die, you'll end up a corpse on the side of the road. Guts says nothing back. What you looking at? Gambino snaps, not waiting for an answer. Right in the battlefield, he says, you got a problem. I'll throw you out right now. Shisu sure picked up a pesky little bastard, he mutters, spitting the word out like it costs him nothing. Guts is on his knees, struggling to get up, working the broken tooth free from his mouth, where the strike caught him. Days settle into a routine at the mercenary camp, mornings passing under thinning cloud cover. Out past the tents, a training ground has become part of daily life. Practice blades crossing while older men sit nearby, sharpening weapons of their own, smoke curling up from a cookfire between them. At the center of it, Gambino squares off against Guts, sword already raised. Is that all you got, he calls? Come on, let's go. Guts answers, gripping his blade with both hands and closing the distance anyway. The blades meet hard, and Gambino presses forward, striking Guts with a knee, not caring how small his opponent is. Come on, he snarls, we're not dancing here. Guts hits the ground, winded, stunned into silence. One of the watching mercenaries finally speaks up. Gambino, he says, you're going too far. You can't expect to teach sword fighting to a 6-year-old kid. Gambino doesn't stop for it. His voice cuts through the group, unsympathetic. He's got to earn his own bread around here, Gambino says. He can't expect to keep eating free meals forever. We're mercenaries after all. Mercenaries. Someone finally offers what sounds like a kindness, that's fine, but Guts, why don't you use a sword closer to his size? Guts refuses outright. No, he says, and nothing more. Guts hauls himself back up, using every ounce of his weight to bring the blade up, and Gambino turns the effort aside without much trouble. He's a pig-headed little guy. Gambino remarks to the men nearby, almost admiring despite himself. We don't keep children's weapons around here, he adds, an explanation as much as an excuse. The lesson continues in front of an audience now. Use your hips more. Someone coaches from the sidelines. Not enough projection. No good. No good. Around them, the watching mercenaries egg the boy on anyway. Go get him, kid. Don't hold back. Go, go. Cruelty and encouragement blurred into the same voice. Gambino lands another clean strike there, he says, like it settles something. The two of them clash again, Gambino's blade raised high and Guts driving upward beneath it with everything he has left. For once, it connects. A thin line opens across Gambino's cheek, blood welling immediately, and something in his expression shifts from irritation into something colder. Guts's eyes go wide with the shock of it, the realization landing on his face a half second before it lands on Gambino's ewe. Gambino says low, and doesn't finish the sentence. You runt, Gambino roars, sword swinging down in a full arc with none of the restraint from before. The blade connects, and Guts is thrown back with blood already streaming down his face. Gee, Gambino, someone stammers, watching in disbelief. You're going too far, another shouts. He's just a kid, but by then, it's already done. Guts lies where he's fallen, blood running freely, eyes wide with a pain that hasn't fully caught up to him yet. They carry him carefully between them now. Careful, careful, someone repeats, handling the boy's small frame with more gentleness than the moment before allowed for. It's an awful cut, one of them says, examining the wound, clean to the bone. Nearby, another mercenary looks toward Gambino evenly. That was a bit childish, wasn't it? He says. Not quite an accusation, not quite forgiveness either. Yeah, Gambino admits, quiet. I guess I pushed him a little too hard. He stands alone after that, saying nothing, his face unreadable in the dark. Night falls over the camp, stars scattering overhead, and somewhere in the quiet, a small voice mutters about the heat. Guts burns through the night, thrashing in the grip of a fever that won't break. My face feels like it's on fire, he mutters, barely conscious, so hot, I can't breathe, he gasps. My head so heavy, my nose clogged with blood. Nearby, unseen by him, shapes gather in the dark to talk. Where did the kid come from? One of them wonders. Did you hear? Another asks. Yeah, I heard he was born from a corpse. How long does Gambino plan on keeping him around, anyway? I bet it's his fault. Shisu died of the plague, someone mutters, the thought settling into the group, like something they'd all been quietly thinking for people in our line of work, who put our lives at risk every day. One adds, he's a bad omen. He'll bring us bad luck. Later, alone, Guts lies still with his face freshly bandaged, exhausted past the point of fear. His hand finds the hilt of his sword without looking for it, fingers curling around the grip and holding on. The blade stands planted upright beside him, driven into the earth like something keeping watch. Guts curls close to its base and sleeps there small against the ground. The sword, the only thing steady enough to hold on to. Morning comes gray over the hills, the sun only beginning to break the tree line. Alone by a stream, Guts drives through another swing. 98, he counts under his breath. 99, 100, he finally says, driving the blade down one last time with everything left in his arms. He pauses only long enough to catch his breath, panting hard, sword slung across his shoulder, refusing to let the exhaustion show on his face for longer than a second. He sits on a fallen log with the sword planted before him, quiet for a long moment. He looks at his hand, scarred, calloused, bleeding, no longer a child's hand in the ways that matter. Gambino, he says suddenly, catching sight of him approaching through the trees. You sure are taking a long time to draw water. Gambino calls out, dry, like nothing between them needs saying out loud. Gambino only grunts, tossing something toward him without much ceremony. Here, he says. Guts sits with something small cupped in his hands, uncertain what he's looking at. Rub it on your wounds, he adds. It's medicine. Guts stares down at it, caught off guard, not quite sure what to do with the gesture. Gambino, he calls out, chasing after him. Gambino barely reacts. Thank you, he says, quiet and stiff, the words clearly unfamiliar in his mouth. Gambino says nothing back, only turns and walks on. Hurry up and get the food ready, he calls over his shoulder, already moving past whatever just happened between them, leaving Guts standing there alone, unsure what to do with the silence that follows. Guts sits with it a while longer, working the medicine into his wound with careful fingers. Perhaps it was for no reason other than to soothe his own guilty conscience. Gambino's kindness, costing him nothing and meaning less than it looks like from the outside. Guts winces as the medicine finds the rawest part of the cut. Ow, he hisses, touching his nose gingerly, then his expression hardens again. Something guarded settling back over his face, whatever gratitude touched him a moment ago already folding itself away. 3 years pass in the space of a single page turn. A castle burns under full siege now, walls cratered by cannon fire, ladders thrown up against every breach the army can find. Soldiers pour toward the walls in waves, smoke rolling black across the battlefield. Siege guns dragged into position behind the front lines. A section of wall gives way in a final explosion, rubble and fire scattering across the field. Phew, someone mutters afterward, surveying the wreckage, a horse lying dead nearby, smoke still curling from the wall's broken teeth. All right, guys, someone shouts, rallying the men behind him. Let's go to work, comes the answer, and the mercenaries surge forward together toward the breach. First one there takes all, someone shouts, and the mercenaries surge forward as one, Guts among them, sword already raised. Let's make some money, he mutters to himself, jaw set, eyes fixed on the breach ahead. Hey Guts, someone calls out, and he startles at the sound of his own name. Don't overexert yourself, kid, an older mercenary warns him, unimpressed. Just do what's needed, because if you die, you lose everything. It's your first battle, someone tells Guts as they push forward together. Work hard, comes the addition, half encouragement, half warning, charge. The leader roars, sword thrust skyward, and the whole line breaks into a dead run toward the smoking wall. The breach swallows them whole, ladders thrown against scarred stone, catapults and cannon fire, tearing gaps in the defenders' ranks, the noise closing in from every side. The fighting doesn't let up. Steel meets steel again and again along the broken wall, men grappling in the open where the breach has swallowed any order the charge once had. Somewhere in the noise, breath comes in ragged pants, the sound of men pushed past what their bodies want to give. Guts fights somewhere in the thick of it, small among armored bodies twice his size, his blade finding gaps where it can. Impacts land on every side of him, the chaos giving no one room to rest. A helmet takes a glancing blow, staggering its wearer. Guts presses the advantage before it can recover, driving his sword forward with everything he has left. Guts fights on, breath ragged, expression caught somewhere between focus and fear. Somewhere in the scramble, his sword finds its mark for the first time, and there's no room left to feel anything about it before the next threat is already closing in. A towering knight looms over him now, mace and shield raised, having closed the distance while Guts was still catching his breath from the last kill. The blow lands, a sound like a fist against armor, and Guts goes down hard, the wind driven out of him, sprawled and defenseless beneath the knight's shadow. He can only watch, wide-eyed. As the weapon rises again for a finishing blow, he has no way to stop. Gambino, Guts cries out, and Gambino is already there, cutting the knight down before the blow can fall. This isn't sword practice. He snarls down at Guts, no gentleness in it at all. After you've killed one, you move on. Watch your back. Work, someone else shouts nearby. Work, come on, hurry up, the battle, giving no one time to linger on what almost happened. Guts's face says nothing, caught somewhere past word. The battle recedes into its aftermath. Smoke still curls from the broken wall behind them as the camp reassembles, tents rising again, men trickling back from the field in twos and threes. Inside one of the tents, men gather around a table where the day's earnings are counted out and divided, an older paymaster keeping the tally. Next, someone calls and the line shuffles forward. Guts brings what he's earned to Gambino, same as always, Gambino turns the coin over in his hand for a moment, considering it here. He says finally, and presses it into Guts' palm without much ceremony, a reward, however small, for the day's work. "Keep it up," Gambino tells him, and there's the faintest trace of something warmer behind the words than his usual flatness allows. "I will," Guts says, something almost like resolve in it, though what exactly he's answering isn't fully clear from the page alone. Guts walks off afterward, quiet among the others gathered near the fire. Behind him, Gambino only huffs out something close to a laugh and lets him go. The camp settles into evening around a fire, voices low, bodies worn out from the day. Guts sits apart from the others, turning his new coin over in his fingers. "Gambino," someone shouts. "Something I can do for you," Donovan Gambino asks. "What?" Gambino says next, his expression shifting towards something wary. Whatever Donovan has just asked him clearly not sitting easily. A massive, bald mercenary approaches Gambino directly, his bulk cutting through the firelight. "Gambino," he says, and Gambino turns at the sound of his own name. Night falls over the camp, a thin crescent moon hanging low over the tree line. Guts sleeps curled small in his tent alone, the weapons and gear of the camp piled around him in the dark. He wakes with a start, restless, unable to settle. "I can't stop shaking," he admits to no one. Whenever it gets to be this time, the sentence trailing off into something he can't quite name. Outside, unseen by him, a shape sits waiting near the tents, patient and still. "Who's there?" Guts calls out, sitting upright, sword-length shadow falling across the tent floor beside him. He startles hard, breath-catching, some old instinct already awake before his mind has caught up to why. A massive shape looms over him in the dark, silent, and Guts can only stare up at it, uncertain. "Donovan," he says, the name landing somewhere between question and recognition. A hand reaches for him out of the dark. Guts' face contorts around a scream, eyes wide, every instinct in him already fighting. He scrambles backward across the ground, reaching desperately for the sword propped just out of arm's reach, fingers straining for a hilt he can't quite close his hand around. The hand closes over him first. Everything goes white. Some of what shapes a person happens where no one's watching. Nobody chose this for him, and nobody's going to undo it either. What Guts carries forward from it is still ahead of him, and so is everything it costs him to carry. New chapters go up as they're finished. Subscribe if you want to be there for the next one.